This is the I Read Comic Books podcast, and I am your host for this week's episode, Paul Jasley, filling in for Mike Rapin. He came back last week, but he's off this week, so don't worry. More Mike is coming soon. But I am not alone, of course. I am joined today by two upstanding citizens of Gotham City, Kara Shamborsky.
Hey. And
Paloma Deerfield.
Hello, hello, hello.
Welcome, both of you. It's a big day, big weekend for comic books. We're recording this the day after Free Comic Book Day. I know I hit a couple shops in my town, grabbed a bunch of stuff. I have a giant stack of comics waiting for me to read this afternoon. I'm sure you both have the same. But before we get into all that, I just want to throw out the two legally mandated questions I'm required to ask as the host of this podcast. How have you been? How have comic books been? Let's start with you, Paloma.
I've been pretty dang good. I'm in my sleepy mode today because I worked Free Comic Book Day, and as
understandable,
as you all know, that's quite the party. Lots of standing. Forgot to take my ibuprofen before bed, but I'm here.
Oh, no.
Comics
critical
are here.
Error.
Critical, yes. Yes.
It's like once you're over the age of 30, you got to have your arsenal of over-the-counter prescriptions ready to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm okay. I'm standing strong. And that's because
I know I happened to stop by the shop where you work, Paloma. It's very close to my house. I walked down there. I saw you kind of, doing your thing, working. I didn't want to bother you. I wanted to get out, grab my comics and get out. So I'm sure it was a long, busy day for you.
Oh, yeah. But comics gave me strength and had a time where I was like, I have to read one comic so I can be prepared for today, so I don't get lost in the Free Comic Book Day prep sauce.
Mm-hmm.
But I read one that I'm pretty excited about. I'm very excited that it got added to my collection. It's called Batman Thrillkiller #1. Came out in 1997. Yeah.
Oh, the 90s. This makes sense. Please continue.
Yep. Written by Howard Chaykin, who I knew more as an artist, and art by Daniel Brereton. I was in for quite a treat. 90s, right?
I was going to say, Paloma, how 90s is this Batman story?
It's not. So, oddly enough, takes place in 1961 Gotham City. It's an Elseworlds.
Okay.
Yet, Robin, the Robin character, is still wearing a jacket over a tight costume, which I feel is very 90s.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and then Batgirl, I guess, has her belly out, which is also modern, but I also feel very 90s costume. And kind of like, well, I guess her hair's always coming. It's all very 90s, despite taking place in 1961. The jacket, I feel like, really sells it. And also, what's the beard that is kind of just a little bit on your chin? Is that
soul
a soul
patch?
Yeah. Robin has a soul patch.
That's very 90s.
Okay.
Robin has a soul patch? No.
That's what it looks like.
Go back to Seattle. Damn. Okay.
So that's what we're working with. Also 1961. This series, I feel like, has always been in my mind, having not really read it, because I had an action figure of Batman from this Elseworlds story. Not having never read it. Yeah. I'm pretty sure I did. And so me and my coworker talking about our various Batman figures. I have a Tim Sale one. Lives at my parents' house. Don't know where this Batman Thrillkiller one is. Then a few weeks later, my shop buys a collection, and it has all 3 issues. And there's a special issue also of this series. So I was like, I gotta scoop this. Gotta figure out what this is all about. So, 1961, they reference JFK as president. They talk about the beatniks, the bohemians, also mobsters. But it's an exciting era of change. And so we follow this new dynamic duo onto the scene, Batgirl and Robin, fighting crime. The dirty cops in Gotham don't like this. There's also a shakeup in the mobster scene, so everyone's scrambling for power. So Detective Bruce Wayne is assigned to the case of the dynamic duo. Bruce Wayne's a detective because his parents were murdered by former servants, and so now he's broke, had to sell his mansion, and he's trying to pay off his father's debts.
Broke Bruce. Okay.
Yeah. Didn't happen in recent years. Happened a long time ago in this other universe.
Yeah.
So yeah, issue 1's just kind of a setup. I don't know what the plot is necessarily going to be.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if Gordon's a commissioner in this. I don't really know the rankings of things, but he hates Dick Grayson in this. I can't tell if Dick Grayson's supposed to be a teenager because they call him like a teen heartthrob and other rude teen-implied names. But Barbara
Other
Gordon,
rude teen-implied names? A heartthrob is not a rude term.
that one's not. Sorry, that one's not rude, but they're using it rudely.
Oh,
like he's only
okay,
worth
you
his look.
heartthrob.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get out of here, you fucking himbo.
So that's very interesting. And also, Bruce is not that much older than Barbara because Gordon wanted them to get together. So there's a lot of things stewing here.
Even when there's like alternate universe stories about Batman, I am always creeped out when they ship Batman and Batgirl together. Like this has happened a few different times in a few different versions, and every single time it skeeves me out. I'm like, how dare you? He's
I feel similarly.
Toxic mentor figure, like if anything.
Yeah. So it's an interesting one. The art is absolutely gorgeous. It's very painterly, based off of Bree's research. Mm-hmm. That's what I think Daniel Brereton is like known for. It feels like I'm not an art historian or well versed in any paint, but it feels very oil painterly. I don't know. I really like it. And it's always crazy awesome to see art like that within the pages of a comic.
Oil painting tends to be more luminous because the way the paint is structured, it like can have a little bit more light, like reflectivity. So would you like, does that apply to what you're describing about this art? Like, is it more luminous and a little bit glowy, or is it more matte?
That's a good question. It feels glowy, or I guess it reminds me of, oh, this is embarrassing, but at the Detroit Institute of Art or somewhere in Detroit maybe, Frida Kahlo's husband it reminds me of like his paintings. I unfortunately can't remember his name.
I'm sure
Diego
she
Rivera.
would love
that. Yeah. Diego Rivera has that huge mural in the Detroit Institute of Arts. It's very beautiful. Yeah.
But it also feels luminous though. It's very bright. And I can also see the details pretty well.
Mm-hmm. A saturated color palette, not a washed out one.
Yeah. So I'm a big fan of that.
Having not seen a visual of this comic and like the way that you're describing it, it's very dissonant to me, because as you described the outfits and the aesthetics of Batman and Robin looking hella 90s, because you're correct, the jacket over the spandex, super 90s, the soul patch, super 90s. And then you're just like, and it's a painted style, and it takes place in the 60s, and Batman is a detective, and my brain's like, none of this computes. I simply don't know what to do with all this information.
Yeah, I did not know it took place. Like, if you look at the cover, you would not think it's so focused in like the 1960s, and I wasn't expecting the JFK mention just based off the soul patch alone.
Fair. I mean, that's really interesting because I've had a copy of this in my collection for like years, but I've never read it. It's one of those books you digging through the back issue bin, something catches your eye. Like, I've read other stuff by Howard Chaykin I really like. I've read other stuff by Howard Chaykin I couldn't stand, but it's like, okay, it's Batman, it's Chaykin, the artwork is very like eye-catching. So I bought, the 3 issues of it, but I've never actually read it. So I actually had no idea it was set in the 60s. So now that's bumped up to the top of my pile. I'll have to go find my copies and actually read them at this point.
Yeah, I'm pretty stoked to see where it goes. This also maybe, if you know how like things online pop about, or like a random YouTube thumbnail will be like, did you know at one point in time this happened in comics? But it was really it's an Elseworlds story. So this Elseworlds story also has, I don't think she's been named, but clearly the Joker is in this, and she's a woman. And so I feel like a lot of people kind of come across this in passing because everyone's obsessed with the Joker. then we have like a lady Joker, and she has like the short hair, like kind of his classic, maybe more like animated series like look with his like suit and how it's tailored.
His zoot suit.
Yes. So very, I feel like similar to that Joker, but very, very much a woman. So I'm very curious to see where that character goes and how that's all played up. And I feel like I'm like, oh, I have seen images of this Joker before, and like here's all the Jokers from all the times.
Yeah.
Do you think every time they do a lady Joker, they have to make her hit on Batman? Or is this going to be like the opposite direction and they're like, actually, she's gay?
I wonder. I could see her. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, gender doesn't matter because there's plenty of issues where the cis male Joker hits on Batman. So it's I guess it doesn't matter which version of the Joker is going to happen, right?
Is Joker the Bugs Bunny of the DC universe?
Whoa.
Wow. I'm going to say yeah.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
But like more murdery. Although I think Bugs Bunny would have a high body count if his violence actually resulted in ways that violence would happen in the real world.
Yeah.
I mean, you hit somebody with a mallet, that's a concussion at least.
Minimum.
A lot of anvils dropped on heads, I think in real life would be a lot more damaging, than you see in the cartoons. I'm excited. Actually, thanks for reminding me about this comic, Paloma. I will have to dig up my copy and finally read it. Like I said, Howard Chaykin is a creator that when he's on, it's great. He is a very dated writer, so I'm curious to see him writing a comic in the 90s that might bring out some of his parts of his writing that I don't care for, but it is a DC comic, so he can't go as crazy as he does for other publishers in terms of his sexism or old school views. But I love Batman Elseworlds stories. As a kid, a deep Batman fan growing up in the 90s, I lived for those Batman Elseworlds stories. I'd love to go back and reread some of them. It's such a cool, different takes on the character,
I definitely have Gotham by Gaslight somewhere, or at least read it. And I have again, don't know where this is, but I have an Elseworld one shot where Batman was a pirate and Catwoman was okay. I forget if she was also a pirate, but it was very like opulent, frilly outfits. And this is like, several years before Pirates of the Caribbean brought that back. So it felt a little bit more like somebody went browsing through the romance section when Fabio was on the cover of all of them, that kind of vibe. It's really exquisite. Joker has like a million curls.
That sounds great.
I always love that one just for the aesthetics.
Yeah. It's fun stuff. Cool. Well, that sounds great. Again, I'll have to read this and I'll report back with my thoughts as well. So cool. Kara, how about you? How have you been? What about comics?
So my comic book update is that I completely forgot it was New Comic Book Day yesterday because I've been so consumed with the idea of it being Star Wars weekend leading up to May the 4th. Right. So yes. I actually took the 4th off of work because I was just kind of like, am I going to take the day off just to watch Star Wars movies? Yeah, I'm an adult. I can use my time the way I want to. So I'm probably going to try to do the original trilogy on Monday. I did Phantom Menace on Friday night, and like, I understand that it's not a good movie. I understand the hate. I understand that it does basically nothing to add to the story. However, I was 10 when it came out, so I was like the perfect age for what they were trying to do. Like, aside from the whole like trade routes taxation stuff, which, unfortunately too relevant today. I was like locked in on everything about this movie. Like, I remember playing pod racers in front of my friend's apartment building where we like made our own pod racer outlines out of like sticks and stones and shit. So like, like watching it now, I'm like, oh, every character here is a racist caricature except for Qui-Gon Jinn, who's the stoner uncle. And I really love that that's the characterization he's developed over time. But, even as a tiny child, I understand that Jar Jar was annoying. But now it's such a nostalgia thing for me that like watching Phantom Menace again, I was like, yep, this is great. And I know oh my god, I'm blanking on his name, who played tiny Anakin Skywalker, got a lot of really negative reaction to his portrayal. And I'm watching it, I'm like, yeah, because he's literally a child. Did you want a literal child to be Darth Vader right off the bat? Like, he's a kid actor being a kid. Like, all of his reactions are child reactions. Like, yeah, he's a little corny. He's 9. so that was fun. No, like more comic specifically, you know, I moved a couple months ago and all of my books were still boxed up until super recently. So like I am just able to access my comic books again. So that's my fulfilling comic journey. But one of the books that I unboxed that I just had like a really like low energy day the other day, and I wanted something like a little bit light that wouldn't really require a lot of brain power. And I pulled out I have a copy of the Moomin comic strip. It's an edition that Drawn and Quarterly published that is called Moomin the Complete Tove Jansson comic strip. And I've like, in America, we're less familiar with Moomins as a property, but in Europe and especially like the Nordic countries, like that's where they're from. So it's more of a known quantity and intellectual property and like spin-offs and merchandise and so on and so forth. But it's a comic strip that was published in like post World War II. Again, in those Nordic countries. I forget which one exactly. I think the author is like Swedish and Finnish. So somewhere in that area. And the Moomins are these little like hippopotamus looking guys. And like the comic strip is like the first story that I read is featuring Moomin, who's like the main guy. And he goes on, it was interesting like reading this comic strip because I'm glad it was collected. When I think of a comic strip, I think of something like Garfield, where the punchline has to be encapsulated in the 3 panels that are given, so that even if you're just dropping in on a random day, you can follow what's going on. This is not necessarily capturing a complete story in each single strip. So it definitely helped to be able to read them all together to understand what was happening. But like all of them are stunning. They're done in black and white. You start off with Moomin trying to get away from all their like needy relations, which are all depicted as these little like tiny worms with a million little hands, just like crawling. Or like, it looks like the little guys in Ursula's cave in Little Mermaid, just like reaching and grasping. And so Moomin tries to like get all these poor relatives out of his house and like enlist the help of some friends, and like everything goes cataclysmically wrong, and he ends up on like all these side quests with his like fox friend who's just trying to like make a buck. So they go on all these like capitalistic get rich quick schemes, and it's like by the end of the story they circle back to like, and now there's more poor relatives at the house, but we're happy about it because on the way we found love with a Moomin looking critter with hair called Snork Maiden. the names are incredible. The character designs are great because like each little critter has like a totally different look, and it's really charming. Like the Moomin stories tend to be like very bucolic overall, and more about like, you know, Moomin just wants to like chill and like be in nature and like hang out with his lady love and like smell the flowers or whatever, and he's like really not interested in all these like get rich quick schemes. He's just like going along with it because he wants to like afford a new house, and it's like yeah, relatable. We're all going on our capitalist side quest to try to afford living space. So really charming. I'm glad that I picked it up. It was like the perfect little palate cleanser. And I always like reading European comics. They're so different from the American approach to storytelling, and it's nice to get a little different perspective sometimes.
Nice. I know I'm familiar with Moomin aesthetically, like I've seen it, but I've never actually read any of it. And like, I'd be very curious. It kind of reminds me, obviously it's very different, but the simplicity of the artwork does ring a sort of Nancy tone to me, where it's just like everything just so, to the point. There's a boom, boom, boom punchline. It's like, this sounds a little bit different in that regard, but just the simplicity of the cartooning and the simplicity of the setup sounds be up my alley.
Yeah, there's like no fancy backgrounds or anything. The characters are all done in like black and white. There's not a lot of hatching or shading or anything. So I do think that you would like it purely for the creativity that the creator brings to like all the background characters, because each background character has their own distinct look too, and they're all like weirdly shaped and like highly caricatured. It's very charming. Nice. Yeah, I'll have to check that stuff out. I know at some point there was like a free comic book day tying in the theme of the episode. There was a Moomin free comic book that I do have somewhere in the small box filled with the free comics I've collected over the years. So I'll maybe grab that and check that out. So, well, as I mentioned, this weekend was free comic book day. I hit a couple shops in my area. Like I said, I did visit Paloma's shop here in downtown Grand Rapids, Michigan, Vault to Midnight. I grabbed a few things there. Then I made my way over to Tardy's Collector's Corner, my local shop here in Grand Rapids. Grabbed a few things there. Both places were very busy. I actually tried to go early in the day, did not want to deal with the large lines of people, so I delayed my visits till later in the afternoon. It was a great day that I spent most of the evening reading some comics. I got a big stack of stuff to read this afternoon. And the one thing I wanted to make sure I read to talk about on the episode is the infamous Swamp Thing number 88 that came out this week, aka Swamp Thing 1989 volume 1. I'm sure most people know about this at this point, but I'll give you the brief history. This was the issue of Swamp Thing that was originally intended to be published in 1989, written by Rick Veitch, art by Michael Zulli and Vince Locke, colors by Trish Mulvihill, letters by John Costanza and Todd Klein. It was not published in 1989 due to the content and controversial proposed cover for the issue. It arrived on your comic book shelves in shops 37 years later this past week. So they finally released it. I didn't know anything about that.
Here we go. This is very, very interesting.
Introduce.
They were going to publish this in 1989, but they ended up pulling it from the release because it's 1989. I think the Time Warner, merger was about to happen. Batman has just hit the theaters. DC is like getting a lot of attention. And Rick Veitch had written a story where Swamp Thing is lost in time and ends up in Jerusalem the night before the Crucifixion. So it is an issue that ends with Christ being crucified. That's not so much what the problem was. The problem was Veitch's initial idea for the cover was Swamp Thing as the actual cross that they use for the crucifixion. Which DC thought that might be a little controversial, considering this is a year after Martin Scorsese's Last Temptation of Christ had come out, which had been boycotted, and there'd been death threats against Scorsese for that. It was a religious fervor at the time that DC did not want to mess with, so they ended up not releasing the issue, even though it was completed. So here we are, 37 years later. DC did actually publish it, and what's great, they publish it as it would have been in 1989, because I pulled it out of the bag. You got the ad for Batman right there on the back cover.
Love.
And then you got all the in-house ads in it. There's in-house ads for what would have been out that month from DC.
Oh, I love it.
It's great. So I knew about this issue. I knew about the controversy. It's a pretty big story in comic book history. So it was kind of cool to actually get the physical copy, especially as it would have been released at that time. In reading it now, as a non-practicing former Catholic, it's not really that blasphemous. It's just Swamp Thing just happens to show up at a point in history where that event takes place. It does tie in some DC lore, because there's a point where the three wise men summon a demon
Is it Etrigan?
that corrupts. Hold on. It corrupts Marcus Aurelius the night before the crucifixion. And then there's a confrontation in the garden. Of course, I'm forgetting the name of the garden. I'm a bad former Catholic. The garden where Christ is praying before the night before. And Marcus Aurelius is basically turned into a demon. He's kind of starts speaking in rhymes. Like, oh, it's happening. He's speaking in rhymes. And then Swamp Thing confronts him. And then basically like the demon comes out of him and gets trapped. It's literally his Etrigan. Like Swamp Thing even calls it by name. Like that's Etrigan right there.
Nice.
So you get a little deep cut DC reference, which of course I appreciated. It's a nice looking issue. I like the artwork a lot. Michael Zulli did the original work, and then Vince Locke kind of like touched it up for this release. And then Trish Mulvihill does the updated colors for it. It looks really nice. It makes me want to read the rest of Rick Veitch's Swamp Thing run, because I know he took over after Alan Moore left. I've read a big chunk of the Alan Moore stuff. And of course, this was kind of Rick Veitch ended up leaving the title after this controversy took place. So it's kind of the last issue he did. I'm glad it's out. I think it's really cool of DC to, kind of release it. They got a lot of publicity for it, for finally releasing it. So it's nice to have in my collection. Yeah, I'm glad I picked it up for sure.
Do you know why they chose now to release it?
I'm not sure exactly.
Is it Vertigo?
Which it's kind of unfortunate.
Does that mean that I can write my own fan fiction and be like, Pope Leo read Swamp Thing and is like, now that I'm the Pope, I demand the release of this issue so I can know what happened. This is my new headcanon.
It is interesting. I think it's, I'm glad, like I said, I'm glad it came out. It's maybe a little late because Tatiana Wood, who's the colors for DC, she passed away last year or maybe earlier this year. So she'd worked on the original issue or had been working on Swamp Thing at the time. So she didn't get to see it published. Hopefully she knew that was happening before she left. But yeah, I'm not sure. Again, I think the publicity around it, I think they're planning on publishing a collected version or collected edition of all Rick Veitch's Swamp Thing. So they kind of want to maybe include it. They released this as a one shot, basically. So yeah, it's cool. I'm glad I was able to grab a copy of it. My store had plenty of copies because Vince Locke, the artist who kind of like did the finals, the finishes for this, is from West Michigan. So he's at my local shop signing copies of it. So
nice.
It's pretty cool. Yeah.
So does this one have the cover with Swamp Thing as the cross that you were describing?
It's not the official cover that they used. They have the basically the proposed cover. It's like a photocopy of it, so it's like not detailed, but you can see it. What it would have been in there. And there's a nice essay by Stephen Bissett, kind of explaining the events around the issue, why it got shelved and all that. So it's a cool piece of comic book history that I'm glad DC finally published.
Yeah. I mean, as a fellow lapsed Catholic, I'm thinking like, this doesn't sound blasphemous. This sounds metal as fuck. Just like,
yeah.
But no, I see. My algorithm feeds me a bunch of like Catholic memes, but they're all like Catholic with the side helping of like, let's like, we have a good sense of humor about this gang, right? And they're all just like, if you were like raised Catholic, you're like chill about it, but if you convert, then you're like a little bit more intense about all this stuff. But the people who were raised in it was just like, it's fine. Like, pick your saint of the day. It's
exactly. Yeah, again, like I said, there's nothing really. It's a Swamp Thing book. It is suggested for mature readers. That's what the title was at the time. So it's not the content of the book itself that gave it that. Swamp Thing, ever since Alan Moore took over, was more of an adult, kind of serious oriented book. It's not blasphemous at all, I don't think. I just think
check with the Pope.
Yeah. We'll get his blessing on that, literally. But the proposed cover, and I think a lot of it was the fact that the Batman movie just came out and DC's like, we do not want to mess anything up. We do not want to get any bad publicity.
But that's like you're just describing my like number one problem with these more like intense IPs like Batman, Superman, the money makers for these companies. They're never going to actually do something interesting with those characters because they're trying to protect the potential to make more revenue. And now you're just describing a situation where the desire to protect that revenue stream led to like putting some guardrails on a creative decision. It's like, what, like, could they have made a different decision? Would it have impacted the movie results? Like, I wasn't there. I don't know, but choices were made.
Yeah, choices were made, and I feel like DC's kind of correcting them in a way. Again, it's like, this is a big release for them. It also advertises the collected edition that's coming out. So obviously there is some like, obviously it's still capitalism that this comes out. It's not that, it's completely benevolent, but it's cool. Again, I knew about this as a kid. I remember like the controversy had been mentioned probably in Wizard magazine I was reading as a teenager. They probably mentioned like famous unpublished comics. So I kind of knew about it. So I was excited when DC finally announced that they were going to do it. So nice. I think it's worth picking up, even just as a historical kind of document. It's a fun issue. Again, I like Swamp Thing. I like Rick Veitch, and it's a fun issue.
Good.
Fun might not be the operative word when you know what I'm saying. It's an interesting issue. Let's say that. Yeah.
Interesting. Closure, history, real next tier nerd shit.
Exactly. Yeah. And I guess it makes Jesus officially DC canon. Is it? I mean, it would have been canon at this point. This is after Crisis, so yeah, it's official canon. There we go.
All right.
Swamp Thing was there.
What could possibly be blasphemous about that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So anyway, those are the books that we read this past week. Like I said, I've got a whole big stack of stuff to read coming up. One of them is sitting right in the very top, of course. And we'll talk about that. The books on the very top of our pile. Let's start to you, Kara. What are you going to be reading next?
Well, Paul, as I said earlier, I finally unpacked all my comics. They've been in boxes for, a little, maybe like 4 months now. And so unboxing them, I feel like I've seen everything with fresh eyes. I see the depth of the influence of all of you, my fellow panelists on this podcast, because literally every book I pick up that's not a Disney title, I'm like, Kate Lanfear told me to read that. Kate Scotchels told me to read that. Mike told me to read that. Like, I'm literally, it's all just being influenced by all of you. So, many books on that pile. And I had what I'm actually most interested in putting back onto the top of my pile is last year. I am one of the people who backed the Kickstarter for the Transformers G1 comic series. I'd never actually read it, so it was kind of nuts for me to be like, sure, here's a pile of money to give me thousands of pages of comic books that I've never been exposed to before. But I have such a soft spot for the Transformers.
Interesting.
And I, like, I'm not going to lie, Paul, like, 90% of my exposure to Transformers G1 has been through fan fiction. So I was kind of like I've seen some of the cartoon, but I'm sort of like, I think the comics will give me something in between like 80s cartoons selling toys to children and erotic fan fiction featuring some of the robots. So I feel like and there's thousands of pages of this comic book, right? So I got because I'm a completist, I got the Till All Are One edition, which takes because in the 80s they were publishing G1 comic books through Marvel in the US, and I forget the UK publisher, but they were also doing comics in the UK. And I don't know exactly how they tie in, but what they did with the Till All Are One edition is they like put everything in order. So it's like interspersed between the US and the UK editions, but it does also mean that you turn a page and all of a sudden you're looking at a completely different art style and creative team. And you're okay. So I can only imagine what it was like to attempt to read this story as a Transformers fan in the 80s, like pre-internet. But it was like really satisfying to get the books delivered. They arrived around Christmas. I had them under my tree, but then I was like promptly getting ready to move, so I read like 20 pages or something and then like reboxed it all back up. So they've been taunting me from like the bottom of a closet where I've been trying to organize everything. And I like, again, I must emphasize how many pages of Transformers comics await me. Like each of the books is like, it looks like, since we're on the topic of God earlier, it's like Bibles. It's like a series of Bibles, like all stacked together, like door stopper comic books. So they're very cool, and I do want to keep reading them, but I was just kind of like, oh, is this how Mike felt when he was about to tackle One Piece? Just like knowing how many pages are ahead of you. So it's like I'm not gonna like finish anytime soon. I'm not gonna put pressure on myself to like read everything before I try something new. It'll probably be like I read until I feel like I have reached my Transformers limit for the week, and then like put it down for a little bit and come back to it, and it'll just be like a nice little treat off to the side waiting for me.
I like that. Yeah, a little a little reprieve from the day to day with some robots.
Yeah, and for all you listeners out there who are not watching our video stream, Paloma's been laughing at me this entire time. So like I feel
I have so many questions. I have so many questions. Like, what are the ships? What compels one to?
Oh,
get
you're
into
still on the fan fiction thing.
Yeah, hasn't left me.
Right. Well. I will say that again, I got into this in college, so we're talking like pre-archive of our own. We're talking live journal, like posting boards and ship rings and stuff. I actually probably my favorite ship is Jazz and Prowl, and Jazz and Prowl are two Autobots. They're like the second and the third in command for Optimus Prime. And it's like Prowl is like the uptight rule follower, like we have to have our shit together and like do everything by the book, and Jazz is like the freewheeling, like music loving, like everything will be fine, and like they're both like professionals, but they're both, it's like different personalities and they clash, and like both of their color schemes are black and white, so everyone's just like, oh, they're going together. Yeah,
beautiful.
Yeah,
I learned so much about the depths of fan fiction from this podcast. It's a world I know nothing about. I did not expect.
Yeah,
I mean, I knew obviously there's erotic robot fiction out there,
right?
Sure.
The Transformers specifically, that's a new one to me. So
yeah, there's I mean, it's what's that rule where it's like everything will be turned into like some sexual content. I will say it's like, you know, the stuff that is out there, at least at the time that I was reading it, was like very well written, good characterization. Like it wasn't so much about the mechanics of everything as it was about, like, if you take away the like, yes, these are giant robots that turn into cars. If you're just like, like here's a person interacting with another person. Like if you put like two like hot actors in this role, you would be like, oh yeah, these people are gonna bone. So it's like you just kind of step back from the mechanics of it, and you're just like, yeah, I can see the chemistry. I feel the frisson, the tension in the air.
Oh, there we go. I know I'm going to spend the rest of my afternoon.
I was going to say, every Gen X listener is screaming at me right now, as you should be, but like, you know. Yeah. I'm going back to the comics. I'm doing it right now, okay?
There we go. Perfect. Yeah. The true canon. Yeah. Well, that sounds fantastic. So
now you're both laughing at me. Go on.
Yeah, sorry. Paloma, how about you? What's next on your pile?
I'm really stoked to check out Zatanna #1. Came out, I think, maybe this past week, with story and art by Jamal Campbell. I feel like we're just in a year of Zatanna, where I think maybe the past couple of years she's been having like some pretty successful miniseries with Zatanna Bringing Down the House, written by Mariko Tamaki with art by Javier Rodriguez. And then more recently, Zatanna, what was this one called? Oh, it's Showtime. And that one was written and drawn by Jamal Campbell. So I'm pretty stoked for an ongoing story, to see kind of like where that can go beyond like a 5 to 6 issue miniseries. I don't know much about her, but she's always just been like a character like that's cool. I like magicians and magic. She looks cool. I've seen Justice League Unlimited. She was cool in that. I like her in the sense of like the Justice League Dark. She just seems quite compelling, and I wanted to just like dive into this series.
Nice. I absolutely adored Bringing Down the House by Tamaki and Rodriguez. That's a fantastic book. And I love Zatanna. I've not read the other miniseries that Jamal Campbell does. I'll have to go pick that up. But like, it's a character that I love seeing pop up, but it's cool to have her be in the spotlight, like you said, this past couple of years.
Yeah. I think I primarily knew her through Justice League Unlimited, like you said. I think it's also interesting that in that series in particular, she's kind of in the Batverse as well, as it's like she could either be a Batman like roster character, or like I like the stories where they explore more about like her being a magic wielder, because I love the magic lore side of the DC universe. And and you're right, like she has had more of a spotlight in recent years. When I do think of her in comics, I think of her in the Identity Crisis story in DC, because this was like mid 2000s, and there was like leading up to Infinite Crisis, the event, there was all this like build up of stories in the DC universe, and it was all leading to this. And one of the like linchpins of the setup was that at some point Zatanna, like the Justice League, basically conspired to make Batman forget an essential piece of information. So Zatanna like mind wiped Batman using her like backward spell speak. And it was like really goofy to read, because when you read it backwards, she's going Namtab, Tegroff. And you're like, I would burst out laughing if somebody did that in a film. But like, you're like, oh, like she's, if you can like use your magic to mind wipe like the Batman, like you've got some. So it was like dealing with the implications of that and the fallout. So obviously with her more recent series, they're not doing so much of that heaviness, but she does come around every now and again, and every time I'm always delighted.
Yeah, and I love the gimmick. Like again, like the aesthetic, like her costume is great, and then like the gimmick of her powers work by her talking backwards is such a great comic booky thing. Like when you see it, and I start reading, I was like, "What does me?" Oh, and I have to like go back, like, okay, now I get it. Now I see what you're saying. Like you have to pause for a minute to make the spell work in your head,
But then you get lines like Namtab Tegroff, where you're like, okay.
That's the title of the episode right there. Yeah. I did flip through this issue at the shop. I did not grab a copy, but I might have to now, just talking about it. I do love Zatanna, so she's one of my favorite deep cut DC characters, so good stuff. A couple people joining us in the Discord this afternoon, listening live. They have also picks of their own, top of their pile. Danny is going to be reading Star Wars Rogue One, Cassian Andor, I'm assuming because of the holiday tomorrow, or on Monday, if you're listening to this on Wednesday. And then Avocado Kenobi will be reading EC Comics Outlaw Showdown. Sounds fun. Top of my pile is a book I grabbed yesterday when I was at my shop, and that is Nerd Inferno, The Essential Evan Dorkin. Evan Dorkin is an indie creator, probably at this point best known for Beasts of Burden, the series that he does with Jill Thompson and Benjamin Dewey. He also did the Bill and Ted comics for Marvel in the 90s. He did some more recent Dark Horse miniseries about Bill and Ted. Bill and Ted Are Doomed, which is very fun. I know him best as the creator of Milk and Cheese, these foul-mouthed characters that would pop up in Wizard magazine every now and again when I was a teenager. They're Milk and Cheese, literally their tagline is dairy products gone bad. They're just like mean-spirited, satirical characters, just constantly making fun of fanboys. So this collection actually collects every Milk and Cheese comic that he did, along with his own book Dork and the Eltingville Club. It's a massive collection, a lot of pages in this one, a lot of comics, stuff ranging from the late 80s up until now. And Dorkin's self-published work like this tends to be very satirical, very funny, usually poking fun at fanboy culture, sometimes lighthearted, sometimes a little more mean-spirited, but it's very funny stuff. it's obviously someone who loves comics making fun of the world of mainstream superhero comics and stuff. So excited to have all the stuff in one collection. I did really like the Milk and Cheese stuff I read in Wizard when I was a teenager, and just to have somebody's like complete, works like this in a way. Obviously not everything he did, but a lot of the stuff that kind of is of that vein of his work. I was pretty excited to grab a copy of this, the essential Evan Dorkin, as it were.
See, I didn't know about any of that, so now we're just even, Paul. I tell you about erotic Transformers fan fiction, and you tell me about indie comics making fun of fanboys.
Yeah, I'll read the back cover here because it's kind of funny. The entire Ellingtonville Club saga, every Milk and Cheese comic, all the fun strips, gag panels, and stories from Dork. The whole mess is now available in one big-ass omnibus edition, a staggering display of satire, silliness, and stupidity, featuring the Eisner, Harvey, and Ignatz award-winning humor comics by semi-esteemed and somewhat beloved cartoonist Evan Dorkin. So there you go. All one spot. Yeah.
Paul, before we finish, since it is Star Wars week, may I inquire of the both of you, what is your favorite Star Wars movie?
Well, I'll preface this by saying I am Star Wars Orthodox, so I don't celebrate May the 4th. I celebrate Life Day. So,
all right, touche.
I mean, can I give two? I'm going to give two answers because I think it's impossible to pick one. I'm a Star Wars fan, maybe not on the level of you,
doesn't matter,
Kara, or other people on the show.
Star Wars is for everyone.
Yeah, the one that I had the most connection to as a kid was Empire Strikes Back. That was my favorite one to watch as when I was discovering Star Wars. And then I think the one I would put on now, if you're like, let's watch a Star Wars movie and I could just pick one, it'd be Last Jedi. That to me is like kind of the most satisfying, best looking of them all. So yeah.
I think you're the first person who says Last Jedi to me who's not me. So I appreciate you, Paul.
Wow. All right. Nice.
Go on, Paloma. What about you?
Goodness. I also have two answers. I would have to say in terms of nostalgia and enjoyment, and I haven't seen it probably in 20 years, I would say Phantom Menace.
Yo.
Because that was...
All right.
I was a little bit younger, but also like I saw it in theaters when it came out. So that one is special because that's my first Star Wars in theaters. I've admittedly only seen the original or the first trilogy maybe like once. So I am unfortunately quite unfamiliar with the feel of that. Then I would also say, I'm not saying it's good, but maybe Force Awakens, because that was another thing to see in theaters and it was new. Mm-hmm. And it had promise. It promised us so much. So those would be my two answers.
Okay,
nice.
Those are good. I'll make my two. In terms of nostalgia, like Return of the Jedi was always my favorite of the original trilogy, which always like infuriated my dad because he'd be like, "The Ewoks are so stupid. They're just little teddy bears." I'm like. Yeah. And I was a child when I saw it, so I loved the little teddy bears with spears. So definitely that. And then I mean, I do love what they did with Last Jedi. Like it's not a perfect film, but that's definitely my favorite in the newer trilogy. And like when people ask me like what my favorite movie is of all time, I answer like Star Wars: A New Hope, because that film is a really solid film. It's funny, you know who all the characters are. It's a self-contained story. And I think that Princess Leia as a character was ahead of her time, because she like starts the film being like, oh, like here's the princess, she's waiting to be rescued, and the second Luke and Han show up to rescue her, they're just like, she's just like, you idiots, what are you doing? You have no plan. Get out of the way. I'm in charge now. And I was like, in the 70s, if I saw this, it would have blown my mind. Like, yes, queen. But yeah, I'm also like really pleased that neither of you said Rogue One, because Rogue One is a phenomenal film, a phenomenal Star Wars film, and I'm sick to death of people saying it's their favorite one, because I'm just like, that's like saying your favorite character is Batman. We all know you like him. Pick something else. Give me a more interesting answer. Don't pick it just because it's good. Yeah.
I feel like this is going to have to be a recurring topic on the show. I have to know what everyone else on the show's favorite Star Wars movie is. So we'll keep this in the back on the back burner. We'll revisit this topic eventually at some point. This is fascinating because I have a lot of Star Wars thoughts. Some of them might be hotter takes than you'd expect. So yeah, let's put those behind the paywall maybe. So yeah, there we are. Thank you so much for listening to the show today. Talking about comics. I want to thank Paloma and Kara for joining me. I want to thank Zach for doing the proof listening. I want to thank Zander for editing the show. I actually want to give a special shout out to Danny and Kate Lamphere. They've been working behind the scenes while Mike was gone. I just want to make sure they get acknowledged. They did so much work to make sure the show arrived in your earbuds every Wednesday on time. So thank you so much for doing that. Thank you to all the listeners for keeping the show going. Until next time, remember, comics are good, and so are you.